Kings, Andy here again, and this is my usual monthly roundup of new releases I bought in the previous month. So that was September, as we're now into October, and I'm splitting this into two goes, partly because I've bought quite a lot of records. I've got 9 in total, but it's also been a really manic month, September, so I haven't actually got round to actually listening to 2 or 3 of them. So I'm going to cover 5 in this one, and then pick up the other 4 during October after I've had a chance to listen to them all properly and get a view on them. Absolutely crazy month. I've had to organise a funeral. A very elderly aunt died, and start executing her will, so lots of work there. And I've had solar panels put up on the roof and batteries to store it, and lots of electrics, and that was absolute. I didn't realise how much effort there was in actually preparing for that, because my garage was a storage facility and I had to clear it so they could go in there and put the batteries in there. A lot of trips to the tip, believe me, and also clear around in the garden where they've got to put the scaffolding up, and I had to trim a tree, but absolute nuts. So really listening to records, despite the number I've bought, is a bit of a backseat during September. So I'm hoping to catch up a bit now. And especially as it's a sunny day, so I'm generating lots of electricity today. Anyway, let's get on with these. So here I've got 5 albums. I listened to all of these 2 or 3 times, and they are brilliant. Each one is from what I will call an old friend. So either a band or an artist that I've been listening to for more than 20 years, and in one case, more than 50 years. And these albums are really, really good. So I would say that, you know, on this 2 or 3 listen, that all 5 of them would probably be in my top 10 for the year to date. You know, they're that good. So they really all come along in one go. But let's start with the old one, and of course it's a 70s favourite by the name of Dave and the Family Gilmour. Of course I'm talking about David Gilmour here, but it's a new album, Looking Strange, and it really is a family affair. So, you know, he's written the music. His wife, Polly Sampson, who's a writer, novelist, I believe, has written the lyrics, and he's got 3 of their kids, they're not kids any longer, I don't think, supporting on here, some playing instruments and backing singers, and one of its daughter, who's now, I can never remember names, so I've got to check my notes here. Charlie, Romany and Gabriel are the kids, and Romany, his daughter, actually sings lead vocals on one track between 2 points, which I believe is a cover. And also plays harp, and she's got a really lovely voice, and the harp actually works. I sometimes find harp can sort of not quite fit right, but this never comes to the fore. It's there, you're conscious of it, but it's really nicely done. He's got some good guests. Of course, he's got Guy Pratt, who's been playing bass basically since they all fell out with Waters. So he's there again, and he's got Steve Gadd, the great drummer, on there, Roger Eno, and even Richard Wright from The Grave is playing, a recording of him from obviously when he was alive on one of the tracks, and I'll come to that in a minute. He's also employed a producer, a young producer called Charlie Andrew, who's worked with Wolf Alice and Alt J, I believe, and Gilmour has sort of said and commented quite a bit in interviews and that he was really refreshing. He's not remotely overawed by Gilmour, and sometimes he's found that a problem, and quite happy to challenge him, which is what he wanted. And together they've produced a bloody good album. So that overall, the theme of this is about sort of mortality and nostalgia. but it never gets melancholy. His voice, I mean, obviously he's in his 70s and his voice isn't quite what it was when he was in his 20s, but it's held up, and his guitar playing is still superb. You know, right through the very last track on here, called Scattered, has a real Gilmour old school guitar solo on it. It is brilliant. Now I was going to do that as a sample, but it goes on too long, and I'm not going to get away with it in you know, doing more than 30 seconds sample. But it's a brilliant guitar solo, you know, right up there with his 70s classics. The album sort of opens up with quite a short track, Black Cat, which is, you know, it's easy to think that's a sort of filler, but it's more of an overture, really. It's just or an hors d'oeuvre, if I can use a food analogy. Quite short, and then goes into Luck and Strange, the title track, which is quite lengthy. And that they obviously have been working on this track for many years, because this is the one which features the inimitable keyboard work. But, you know, and I probably wouldn't have spotted it. But once I knew that it was Richard Wright recording, you can sort of hear his style in there. They recorded that in 2007, apparently, when they started working on this track. So it's been long in gestation. Just check my notes. And as I say, it goes through the 6 tracks on the first side, which finishes in between 2 points, which is the Romany Gilmour one, and then 3 on side B, including the quite lengthy Scattered with the fabulous guitar solo. Nice cover art, all very black and white, monochrome. Really good quality card on this. And there is, let me chuck this over there, and there's quite a sort of lengthy, detailed booklet with I don't know how many pages, but it's got lots of photos and all the credits and the lyrics in there. So very nicely done. It was quite an expensive album, to be fair, and it's very resplendent on silver, opaque silver. So let me move on to my second one, and I've got to say, I really like all of these albums, but if I was forced off the fence to pick one as the best of these and my favourite, then it would be this one, and it's Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and his album Wild God. And I would go further that this is very possibly my favourite album of the whole year so far. It could be number one. I've only listened to it 2 or 3 times, all of these 2 or 3 times. So slightly first impression, and obviously to decide what the year end number one is, I've got to wait to the year end, and I need to listen to all the contenders a lot more. This is another very nice, hard, thick card. It's not a gatefold, this one. 10 tracks on it, single LP, 5 on each side. And while I'm on the sleeve, it's like so hard. It took me ages to get the bloody record out, and now I can't put the sleeve back in it again. So every time I get it out, I'm looking at Nick, and there's some lyrics on there as well. So what can I say? As I say, it's absolutely superb. Cave's voice is really, really strong. It's I made myself some notes here, and I can't remember. Strong, clear, and emotive is what hit me when I was listening to this. And the Bad Seeds are absolutely superb, really on top of the game. Obviously, Warren Ellis is mucker. is leading that, and also Colin Greenwood of Radiohead plays bass on at least one track. I'm not sure if it's more than one, but and it's you've got some really, really lovely orchestration on here, and not just backing singers, but a full-on choir, which works so really well. It's really effective, and the album just grips you. It grips you from the very beginning and doesn't let go until the end. It's really, really powerful, both in terms of the lyrics, the music, and his voice. And obviously there's a lot about grief in here. Obviously he suffered some close deaths in the family. He's lost both of his sons, I think, since in recent years. But despite that, all these songs are full of hope. It is not remotely melancholy. So just to, on one track, there's which one is it? The fourth track on side one is called Joy. And he sings on there, again, I've written this down. I woke up this morning with the blues around my head. I felt like someone in my family was dead. Obviously, he's singing that. I can't sing. But then he goes on to, it goes on then, and he's encountering a ghost, which he describes as a flaming boy, I guess one of his sons, who sings to him, "We've all had too much sorrow. Now is the time of joy." And that's really what it's sort of all about. It's about, getting on with life, really. The penultimate track is called "Oh Wow," bracket, "How Wonderful She Is." And this is a really delightful love song to an old girlfriend called Anita Lane. And apparently she died in 2021. But again, it's not remotely maudlin, and there's a recorded of her voice recounting a time they were together, and it really makes you smile. It's a happy, sad song. Now, as usual, it's jointly produced by, or I should say, self-produced, really, by Cave and Ellis. But they've got Dave Friedman in to do the mixing and the engineering of it. Now, Dave Friedman is the long-time producer of the Flaming Lips and also Mercury Rev, and managing those sort of slightly eccentric bands, and that he is really a master at being able to create some order out of the chaos of those recordings. It's a truly exceptional album. As I say, there's 10 tracks, and it's a very nice, clear, transparent. So there we go.
Jumping for joy, jumping for love, and opening the sky above. So take that gun out of your hand.
And now, check my notes again. So, and now, in the words of Monty Python, for something completely different, and it's Jack White and No Name. And there is no name on the album. And this is Jack White at his bluesy. It's back to, really. He's produced some great albums, really, but nothing like this. This is really bluesy. It's the old school garage rock. It really harks back to the White Stripes. It does sound much more like White Stripes than some of his solo work. Some great riffs in there, and it's quite punky in parts. He's not exactly shouting the lyrics, but very, very fast and loud. This was originally released in August, and it was a sort of quiet release, and it started off in just plain, plain white wrappers, nothing on it, which was put into people's bags who bought a record at one of his record stores. So he's got a record store in Nashville, where he lives, and his hometown, Detroit, and London, where I think he spends a lot of time. So, and then, so that was obviously not very many. And then they produced it with a blue splattery vinyl in the tiny numbers, and it was impossible to get hold of, unless you wanted to spend silly money on eBay. So I thought I'd wait, and this month they've just released it on plain black vinyl, and it's and it was a reasonable price. It wasn't silly money. But it's a really, really good record. It's really, it's the White Stripes basically, but really good. There's not really a standout track. There's not one track you think, well, that's. The whole album, it flows from one to the other. The whole album is really good. So, and it is, if you like the White Stripes, you know what it's going to be like. It's, but as good as. So there you go. I'm bombing out. Yes, well that's alright. You're the only one who comes tonight. You thrill me. Yes, you don't kill me first. You're handing out sacrifices for anyone who wants less than more. Or more than less. More or less, there's nothing left to sacrifice. Time is tight. But that's alright. That's that one. And my fourth one, another old favourite, is Mercury Rev. Produced a new album, first studio new album in donkey's years. And it's called Born Horses. So Mercury Rev, basically, right the way through from when they started, is Jonathan Donahue, and I don't know, I can't remember what his full name is, but he's known as Grasshopper, and they hail from Buffalo up in New York State, right up by the Canadian, by Niagara Falls, I think, and with various other members over the years. So currently that is Jess, what's his name? I wrote it down. Jess Chandler, I think, has been with them, at least touring with them a while. And a new member, Marion, what's her name? Genser. So Jess plays piano, essentially piano, sax, flute and stuff like that. And Marion basically is sort of synths and organs, all the keyboards basically. And of course they've got, they've got guests and session players in there as well. And this came with it. It's a nice little lyric sheet is the word I was desperately searching for there. It's just 8 songs, 4 on each side. And it's a 40-minute album, single LP. Some are sort of 3 minutes, some are 5, some are 7. They're up and down, but on average 5. So they're not really short tracks. And it's really unusual and rather beautiful. So there's orchestration on there, and some great, some really, really good brass horns, and I presume that's mostly Grasshopper. He's the guitar, but he's a multi-instrumentalist basically. But the really interesting thing, so it's lush, but at the same time it's quite sort of majestic, shall we say? It's grandiose even. The songs are big, and the music sort of takes off sometimes, not in a heavy way, but in an orchestral way, and Jonathan's lyrics or Jonathan's singing is really interesting because he's mostly spoken voice. Not spoken voice like some of the sort of trendy bands are spoken voice, but it's just the way he came out, he says. So he didn't really intend, he went into the studio not intending to sort of speak them, but that's what he ended up doing. Having said that, it's in a sort of sing-songy way, and every now and then he morphs into full song. And it's not like he's reading poetry either. It's sort of more like as if he's reading a story. And it sounds odd, but once you get used to it, it's really quite nice. It works really well. Jonathan and Grasshopper have self-produced this, so they haven't got Dave Fridman producing it like he's done most of their previous stuff. So presumably that was because he was off working with Cave, but whatever. They've done a brilliant job on their own, and it is rather resplendent on black, plain black, and.
My mood swings back and forth all day, all night. I can't sleep, can't sit still. I count the minutes until my mood swings like a pendulum clock. But the little pills won't make it stop.
And last but not least, Bright Eyes, and a new album called 5 Dice, all three. So Bright Eyes is, I've been listening to their stuff for, as I say, 20 plus years. Is essentially a trio of Conor Oberst, Mike Mogis, and Nate Walcott. And they hail from Omaha, Nebraska. If you're watching that, Steve Carlson, that's your territory, isn't it? This is like all the previous ones. This is their umpteenth album. I've not bothered checking what number it is because it's umpteenth. It's lots, and they're an indie. Well, they're usually described genre-wise as indie rock, but it's quite folky. So sometimes described as alt folk. There's a bit of Americana to it as well, but I think that's more than anything because of Conor Oberst has a very distinctive voice and vocal style, and also they quite like some steel guitar in there, which sort of gives it a slight Americana feel, but it's not what I would call Americana. And there's even a little bit of now and then on here, a sort of jazz feel, particularly from some of the piano work feels a little bit jazzy. On here, they're sort of reflecting on getting older or into middle age, and warn about getting taken in by shaman and charlatans, and they mention a few. Elon Musk gets mentioned as one of them, and they're basically encouraging. This is what the song themes are: encouraging people to make their own luck, basically, and just get on with things. Life's too short. Do it while you can. And I guess the luck element is the the theme of the dice and sort of luck and chance, which sort of flows through the album. It's a sort of repeated theme. Another repeated theme in it, which is quite interesting, is and it actually the first track opens up with this, are sort of old radio vocal samples recordings about things like that. It's not exactly public sector broadcasting, but it's a sort of similar idea, but in the sense that they are using samples from spoken radio programs to augment the songs, and again it works very well. They've got some guests on here. So the Nationals' Matt Berninger plays on, sings with Oberst on, which one is it? The Time I Have Left, the penultimate track, which is a sort of mournful piano ballad. And earlier, sort of roughly halfway through, is a track called All Three. So it opens with 5 Dice, and then in the middle is a separate track called All Threes in there. And there he duets with Cat Power, and it's really quite interesting because it's what I would call almost an offset duet. So they sound as though they're doing their own thing, but somehow are sort of still linked together as a duet. Bit weird. I'll put that in the sample, but I really like it, and it's It's just I love Conor Oberst's voice. It's just I just love the way he sings. I think this album was conceived. It's a it's a double and it's in gatefold, but I think it was conceived as a CD rather than as a vinyl record because it's about an hour long basically, and it's a typical converted CD. It's done on three sides, and the fourth side has got the dreaded etching in it. And also, they haven't sort of renumbered the tracks by side. It's track 1 to 13 sequentially, regardless of what side they appear on. But it is very resplendent in orange and black splatter. This is my only splatter of the month. I think I've got another splatter which I'll do in the second part. So
you were beautiful before. God, you were beautiful before. You were beautiful before until you weren't. Until you weren't. All right.
So that's five really, really good records from old friends, all of which could easily appear in my top 10 of the year so far. So it's been a really cracking month. And the other ones, I've got the other 3 or 4. 3 I've listened to once each, and the 4th has only just arrived, though I ordered it last week. They're really good as well. Maybe not quite up to the massive standard of these, but as I say, these are old friends, and there's a certain comfort feel to them all as well. So I'll do that when I've had a chance to listen to them all in a week or two. So, and I've also received today. I haven't actually opened them yet. The first couple of October releases. So it's getting going already. So anyway, I'm rabbiting on. Thanks for watching. Cheers.